Welcome back to the 2-Minute Warning, episode 275. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram if you have not yet. We really need followers. But the Browns, they win 48-37 last night over the Steelers. Huge upset in my opinion, or at least an upset. I mean, various opinions on whether it was a huge upset or not. But Browns are moving on. Steelers are going home. Jake, can this Browns team go to the Super Bowl?
My short answer is definitely a no. A couple factors being the Pittsburgh Steelers had to play pretty much their absolutely worst game for the Cleveland Browns to upset them. I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm sure if you guys watched the game, gave them a touchdown about 6 seconds into the game. Pouncey hiked the ball over Big Ben's head. Ball rolled into the end zone. Browns recovered it. Touchdown, 7-point lead right away. And Big Ben threw 4 interceptions. So for 4 turnovers and a given touchdown, the Browns barely got a win. I don't want to say barely, but still an 11-point win. You'd think they'd win by 2-3 touchdowns. They kind of allowed Pittsburgh to come back. Now maybe they could have won even more dominantly. They just kind of left their foot off the gas a little bit for, just to take the pressure off, not to worry too much. Why play your hardest when the game's pretty much already sealed? So I do understand that, and maybe they would have won dominantly. But to me, still, Pittsburgh had to play absolutely awful for the Browns to come away with the win. And Big Ben's still old. Juju is cocky. Browns had a chip on their shoulder. Going into Kansas City is going to be a totally different environment. Playing Andy Reid, playing Patrick Mahomes. I think they'll get stopped based off of schedule primarily. Even if they did earn that Pittsburgh Steelers win, which I do think they did, I think they'll get stopped by Mahomes. And even if they get through them, I don't think they'll beat the Bills or the Ravens for sure. Baker Mayfield is definitely progressing and has a bright future, I think, based on what we've seen. But still, they're heavily reliant on Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, which is a good thing to have an amazing run game. But to me, if he doesn't have that, that is not the same Baker Mayfield for sure.
In my opinion, I'm going to also stick with no. They did play a great game yesterday, but I didn't. I didn't stop watching at this around halftime, and at the second half, I saw the Steelers really made it a game. I think that if the Browns weren't given those 4 turnovers in the first quarter, I think this is a very different ball game. And I think that the Steelers are one of the weaker teams in the playoffs right now. I don't think that they're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Kansas City. Kansas City's not going to make the same mistakes as Steelers did. If they were to have a shot, I think it's going to be primarily their run game. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both looked pretty good in the first half last night. They only ended up with 120 rushing yards, I believe, which isn't terrible. But when you really rely on that running game, you would like to see more production out of it. So I think the keys, if they were to beat the Chiefs next weekend, is going to be Nick Chubb scoring at least 1 touchdown and Baker Mayfield throwing for another over 250-yard game.
Yeah, I think regardless of how the Browns won this last game, obviously they were kind of given a lot of plays starting from the very first snap of Pittsburgh. But moving forward, I think the Browns play style lines up well to give them a chance to beat the Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs came into this season with the 27th or 8th ranked run defense. They still struggle defending the run. That's obviously Cleveland Browns' strong point. Kansas City's pass rush is above average, you would say, not fantastic. Baker Mayfield really struggles against good pass rushes. Chiefs don't necessarily have that either, so I think Baker Mayfield can find comfort in the pocket and comfort in the run game. I mean, you look at the way he's playing in these games that he's winning. This particular game against the Steelers, he only threw for 260 yards. That doesn't seem reflective of 48 points. That he's done that all season, especially, was it when they played Dallas, did they win? Did they lose?
Steelers?
No. The Browns and Cowboys went back and forth one game.
Browns.
Whatever. The Browns won that shootout. Baker threw for roughly 200 yards. Baker doesn't win games by throwing for 350 yards, 400 yards. So if he can rely on his run game with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb and throw a couple good passes, touchdown or two, I think the matchup lines up well for Kansas City for Cleveland in Kansas City. It's possible. I wouldn't count it out, but I'm still taking the Chiefs. But the matchup lines up well for the Browns to win.
Yeah, not only does the run game help the Browns because it's their strongest suit, definitely on their offense, but running the ball definitely chews time off the clock, and that takes the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, and that's what you're going to have to do to beat the Kansas City Chiefs is manage the game clock and really have the ball in your possession most of the game, and that's really the only way you can beat the Chiefs. I mean, we still have to give credit to the Browns. They didn't have their head coach. They lost their Pro Bowl guard. They're going to get those things back, so they could arguably even be better heading into Kansas City. But to me, depending on how the crowd is, how many fans they let in, Kansas City is a whole different environment, one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL, if not the loudest. Understand they're not going to let 100% occupancy. There's still going to be some struggle there with the crowd definitely being a factor in my opinion. I think the Browns could put up a better fight than we think. And I think it'll be worth watching for sure. It's not going to be a boring game by any means, but I definitely think this could be a game where Baker has 2 picks or so, and it's not even really close. And we see Patrick Mahomes make sure everyone knows he's still the best quarterback in the league for sure.
You guys made good points. I wouldn't count them out. I think this is going to be a good game. But another thing that I did see that kind of concerned me is that Big Ben was able to throw for 500 yards. I understand that we did see a few picks, but I think that most of those picks were on Ben. I don't think he overthrew 2 receivers, which gave them the first 2 picks. So I think that they need to tighten up because Patrick Mahomes, I believe, is a better quarterback than Big Ben. So I would like to see their secondary tighten up if they do have a hope for next week.
Yeah, that is a solid point. I believe basically as soon as they were down 14 or up 14-0, I think Cleveland immediately went to really conservative pass defense. They didn't care if Ben was completing passes over the middle of the field, so whatever. I don't discredit them for letting Ben throw for 500 yards at all. But I understand where you're coming from. They need to be locked down against Kansas City. I do give Kansas City a slight disadvantage just because they are the 1 seed. Everyone coming for them. Browns coming off a big win. So, like I said, between the weaker run defense of Kansas City and the strong run game of Cleveland, and this the advantage of coming off a big win over or as an underdog, I think Cleveland has some edge in some areas. But I think Kansas City's going to take the game.
Yeah.
And take the divisional round and Cleveland's road.
To be honest, if I was the Kansas City Chiefs, I'd be happy in playing the Cleveland Browns rather than the Baltimore Ravens. If the Pittsburgh Steelers run, that's who the Chiefs would be playing, the Ravens. And I'd much rather be playing Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson right now for sure.
Right. And again, say Browns advance past Kansas City.
I think
if they face Baltimore in an AFC Championship game, we saw what Baltimore's defense was able to do to Derrick Henry. I think that's a game that Baltimore would win.
Yeah.
So Cleveland's road to the Super Bowl is kind of not non-existent, but it's going to be tough for them. So, again, probably not a Super Bowl bound team, but they may be able to get past Kansas City.
And they got a bright future for the next few years, I believe.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, 2 in the morning.